Test 1, 2. Drill is very big in the Marine Corps. It's one of our most prestigious traditions, and we absolutely honor it. So today we have 2 incredible officers that they brought their swords while they were active duty, and we will do a present arms. During that time, we do ask that you are silent, that your phone is on silent as well. And as soon as we're done, you are more than welcome to clap, because I know I will. And then we'll take our seats. So.
Glad you are ready.
You know me. Love talking.
Present swords. Order swords.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, ladies. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Kenna Zumwalt, and I am the program director for our Veteran and Military Student Center here on campus. So for the past 7 years, the Kansas Studies Institute, under the direction of Dr. Ty Edwards and the Veteran and Military Student Resource Center, we have partnered to record and preserve the oral history of local veterans. We do this every spring here on our campus, and then we invite those same veterans back in the fall to do a panel presentation here on campus. And so that's what we're doing today. Our moderator, you know what I'm doing?
I know, you're not, yeah.
Why do I think I don't need these? Okay, there we go. We've had much help from our JCCC colleagues and our community partners in creating and continuing this project. So from 2017 till now, we've just had a lot of collaboration. However, from the start, we agreed that a trained JCCC student, veteran, or alumni should be the oral historian. And our current oral historian is with us today, and his name is Gerardo Ruiz. Gerardo, would you please stand up? Gerardo is also a Marine Corps vet. Can you guys say your thing? There we go. Okay. Lisa, she's the one you want. That was Heidi. Oh, all right. So anyway, let's get on here. So thank you, Gerardo, for being that person. And our moderator today is the wonderful Dr. Ty Edwards. She is a history professor and the director of the Kansas Studies Institute here on campus. Dr. Edwards is an award-winning teacher and scholar who has collaborated on many projects, from veteran oral histories to preservation of the Quindaro ruins in Kansas City, Kansas, to rematriation of the Sacred Red Rock from Lawrence, Kansas to the Kaw Nation. In addition to teaching, she's currently serving on 5 grant projects. So thank you for being here today. 5 grant projects, including a National Endowment for the Humanities grant that funds the Kansas Treaties Project. This project is the annotation of the U.S. treaties with the Kaw Nation. These treaties that led to the Kansas people being displaced from their homeland, land that is our state of Kansas today. So I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Ty.
Okay, so I'm Ty Edwards. I'm so excited that everyone's here today. I know a lot of folks are doing coursework related to this, or you're here to learn more. We're calling this in her own words. We usually call the panel in their own words, but this is the first year we've had all female veterans, and so it's very exciting. They're, of course, all female veterans also of the Marine Corps, as we established. I should note I am not a military veteran, so I could botch the way I say some of these things. Scott Weaver, our usual moderator, always gets it perfect, so they'll correct me if I mess it up. So I'm going to do some introductions, and then we'll get started with our discussion. So Sandra Fontaine, way down on the end there, was a member of the Navy Junior ROTC at Shawnee Mission South High School. She was in the 2nd class of women at the U.S. Naval Academy and the first Indigenous woman to graduate from the Academy, and she is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. She served in the U.S. Marine Corps and the Reserves from 1977 to 2018 and retired as a lieutenant colonel. Her work involved many things, including embarkation, planning and loading. I love this. Trains, ships, and aircraft onto aircraft. And then also in programming, maintenance management, and logistics. And she'll tell you many more things. That's just a brief introduction. Okay, next we have Lisa Parrott, who grew up in Ohio and joined the Marine Corps Reserves in college and then joined as an officer after college. She is a former U.S. Marine Corps captain and supply officer who served from 1999 to 2009. She deployed twice, and we're going to talk about Iraq while we're here. And then she's also my colleague. So she is a professor of business here at JCCC, which is very exciting. Yay! And then right here on my left is Hidy Lopez, who attended Shawnee Mission North High School and was part of the JROTC program there. She is a former Corporal E4 in the Marine Corps and served from 2008 to 2013 and in the reserves and served as an administrative specialist. And she is also a former JCCC student and former JCCC employee. And she also, when we got the first grant that started this project, she was one of our student alumni interviewers who interviewed the first batch of veterans that we interviewed, which on that grant were from the Vietnam War. So, yay, Hidy. Okay, so here's my slide with their faces, but I remembered to print name cards, so you will remember. You will remember who's who this time. So I should say that the oral histories we put, so they each had individual interviews, and we're going to do a few clips from those today. Those interviews are already posted on JCCC's YouTube channel. If you want to see each of their full interviews, we'll see a few clips today, as are interviews we've done with veterans in years past, which span from World War II through the post-9/11 Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Okay, so you can see quite a spectrum there, and also the panels. We do like this every year. Okay, so we're going to start with talking about gender and being women in the Marines. So we're going to start with a clip of Sandra's interview. So let's hear a little bit about what Sandra had to say in her oral history interview.
One of the things that I also, when I first started at the Naval Academy, they didn't have uniforms for the women for all of the different things that we needed them for. So some of the uniforms that we wear were men's uniforms because they didn't have a woman's version. And I ended up on one of the uniform boards. We all did, all the women did, ended up on one of the uniform boards and trying to figure out what would work for us that was close enough to what the guys were wearing that it would work. So to begin with, I was in men's uniforms. And then they slowly transitioned to where we started having women's uniforms that we could wear. And that's hard to look good in a man's uniform that's built for a man's shape as opposed to a woman's shape. Wow. So we got docked a lot for not looking the best we could in our uniforms sometimes.
That doesn't seem very fair that they would do that.
No, we didn't think it was fair either, but you know, it's part of the culture and part of the process of, you know, weeding out people and giving you a hard time. The guys in the previous classes and in my class also felt that if they could get all of the women to quit, then Congress would change their mind and not accept women into the academies anymore. So it was a concerted effort to try and get us to quit. And I'm stubborn enough that you try to make me quit something and I'm going to stick it out and grit my teeth. I think now that if I hadn't had that kind of pressure, I may not have stayed. I probably would have quit. It was hard. But because they wanted me to quit so badly, I wasn't about to. For the women, whether we were at the Naval Academy or we were in the Marine Corps, being singled out as a woman was the last thing that you wanted. You wanted to show that you could be just as effective of a Marine as anybody else could. We may not be as strong as some of the guys were, but there's a lot of guys who aren't that strong either. We may not be able to run as fast as a lot of the guys, but there's a lot of guys who can't run that fast either. And so we wanted to be a part of the Marine Corps. We didn't want to be the women Marines. We wanted to be a Marine.
Okay, Sandra, can you tell us a little bit more about history of women in the Marines and some other things? Sure. Give her a mic, Lisa. Could you give her a mic? Yeah.
In the thank you. In the Marine Corps, the number of women is pretty low, so to find three of us here together is saying something. Overall, for the active duty enlisted Marines, there's only 5.1% of the Marine Corps are women. So out of 1,000 enlisted Marines, you're only going to find 51 women. Out of the entire officer corps of the Marine Corps, that includes the reserves, there's only 4.3% that are women, so not very many. Another thing that I wanted to let you know kind of goes on with that comment that I made of wanting to be known as Marines and not women Marines. They did not stop calling us women Marines until 2006. In 2006, they finally decided that they were going to refer to us as simply Marines and not segregate us out. The first woman enlisted into the Marine Corps in 1918, but she was in the reserves. In February of 1943, Congress passed a law that women could become a permanent part of the United States Marine Corps, and within 2 days, over 100 women enlisted. So that tells you that we've wanted to be a part of the Marine Corps for a long time, but they're just now acknowledging us recently, 2006. I know for some of you that was a long time ago, but for me it wasn't. But 2006 are finally referring to us as Marines instead of identifying us as women Marines.
Mm-hmm. So Hidy, you talked about in your interview that your position, you wanted to deploy, but in your position, most of the people that got to deploy were men in that position. And you said you've repeatedly had contact with male Marines who said they never saw an active duty female Marine in their entire time in the service. And you were also the first woman in your reservist unit. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So yes, definitely. And I will say this, it's an honor to be with another. This is incredible. She is right. We are so rare to find in the real world. But I want to comment that it is an honor to be amongst trailblazers here, because that's what these amazing women are, that if they did not serve, I would not have served. Haven't been able to go. So thank you, ladies. But yes, you are correct. It is hard, you would think, to want to deploy. You would think, oh yeah, they'll sign you up. And so every single time that my unit would ask for volunteers for the next deployment, every single time I would sign up, every single time. Mm-hmm. And every single time they would choose one of my male counterparts in my units. And I would get so frustrated because as an admin Marine, I love admin. I'm a nurse now and I still love the paperwork. And I know that that's saying something, but it would be so hard that I'd be like, but I'm a better admin Marine. Why are you sending them? And they would always tell me, oh, I bet it's because, they don't want you to end up pregnant, probably. Or I bet it's because, like my drill instructor would tell me, and excuse my foul language, but she was like, you can either be a B word, and I'm not going to say it, or you could be a slut. She's like, you can't be either one. The Marines are going to see you as somebody that they can sleep with, or they're going to see you as someone that they are afraid of. And I was like, I don't want to be either. I want to be a good Marine, and I want to be somebody that can inspire other female Marines. But apparently, even my drill instructors didn't think that that's something I could do. So you are correct. It was difficult. And then part of my job is that I did administrative work for DD-214s for Marines to get out, all ranks. So enlisted, officers, anybody that gets out of the military needs a DD-214. So I got to see all walks. And I cannot tell you how many male Marines was like, I've never even seen a female Marine in uniform. And I'm like, there's no female Marines in the unit right now. And I was like, oh. I was like, yeah. Our unit is 75% female and 25% male. They're like, wait, what? There's more females than there is males? I'm like, yeah. And they would look at me like completely foreign. Like they didn't even know if they were supposed to treat me differently or not. And then I saw it again. When I got out of active duty, I joined the reserves. I was at Seal Beach, loved it. And sure enough, I was the first female Marine that artillery unit had ever had. I walked in and they even thought I was in the wrong place. Even though I was in uniform, they're like, are you looking for something? I was like, yeah, this is my new unit. And thank God the staff sergeant was there, knew me from when I was active duty. I was like, Staff Sergeant Avalos. He's like, Corporal Aguilar? I was like, what's up? And we were so excited. And all the male Marines were just looking like, what is happening? And why is it happening? And they're like, what are you doing here? I was like, this is my unit. He's like, oh, you're going to do great here. And I was like, good. And I was like, is there no females here? He's like, no. He's like, wait, wait, no. And I was like, wait, seriously? And it took us a minute to realize he came from a unit that's 75% female to a unit that there wasn't even one of us. So yes, it was incredible. It was daunting, and it was a hard balance to figure out, okay, am I going to be the B word or am I going to be the, and I was like, I'm going to be neither. I'm going to be a great Marine. I'm going to be good at my job, and they're going to respect me because I respect them.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Lisa, I was going to transition to you some to this same topic. So you talked about in your interview that when you experienced gender inequality, you encouraged people to, and you said, quote, return to the orders. Right? And this idea that if they were violating it, then you wanted them to put that in writing. So tell a little bit more about that story.
So I, as a supply officer, ran into a lot of challenges. I was just thinking about this morning. I don't even know that I ever encountered another female supply officer above my rank. Like, it was all men that you interacted with, and the challenges I would be interacting with mostly a lot of lieutenant colonels because of the jobs that I had, and they would tell me to do certain things. So I encountered a number of situations where I would have a lieutenant colonel or a colonel say, I want you to do this for me, right? Thinking they could just order me around because they outrank me. And I was like, yeah, but that's not legal. So it happened more than once that I would be told to do something, and I would have to explain to them that that's not a legal order. Like, if I do that, I can get in trouble. So if you want me to do it, that's fine, put it in writing. Because if they put it in writing and say that it's an illegal order, then it's not on me anymore, it's on them. And that would often change their mind. The minute I told them that you had to put it in writing, they would suddenly realize, like, oh wait, maybe I should actually listen to what she's saying. And it was because I was one of the few people who actually read the orders and knew what they said and knew what was right and wrong. And that was my job. I mean, like, it was just ridiculous because that was the whole purpose of my job, but so many people got used to doing whatever they wanted because they could get away with it, and they weren't being challenged. And I was going to tag a little bit on what both Hidy and Sandra said, if it was okay, because going back to what you said about there being no women, especially in an artillery unit, there's a systemic reason for that. Whether or not you know it, the military had systemic sexism built into it. Women were not allowed to join certain jobs until very recently. Within the past decade, that has changed. But up until then, federally, women were denied access to jobs in the US. You might not know that, but we were literally denied the ability to join an artillery unit, an infantry unit, certain elements of intelligence. And so when you're denying a group of people simply based on how they were born, the ability to do a job, it had nothing to do with competence. It had everything to do with how we actually were physically born. We didn't get to pick that. We don't get to change that. Like, it was just so fascinating. And so you think about this, like the systemic element of this, and it goes even further. It's not just that we were denied access to jobs, because I was in, from 99 to 09, so I was in post 9/11. I watched the towers fall from my sergeant major's office, and I begged to deploy for years, finally got the chance. But here's the reality. They were denying people the ability to get promoted if you hadn't been to combat. Guess who wasn't allowed to go to combat? We were not allowed to be in combat. They denied us from being in combat and then denied us the chance to get promoted. Explain to me why that's supposed to make sense. Because of our birth. Had nothing to do with competence, capability, whether or not we could outrun a man or whatnot, outland nav them. I mean, like, whatever it looked like had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with how we were born. And so I think back to what you said about that experience, and I think back to what you said about uniforms. I went to SEER school. All right, I volunteered to go to SEER school. If you don't know what that is, survival, evasion, resistance, escape. And it's, while I was at SEER school, part of it, when you get to the resistance and escape part, which is, they're teaching you how to be a POW, is the whole purpose of the school. And so you get captured, okay? And you get put into cells and tortured. Like, this is an intentional part of the school. And when you get captured, you get strip searched. Everybody does. I don't care who you are, what you are getting the simulated experience of what it's like to be captured by an enemy. behind enemy lines. And the clothing they gave us after they strip searched us was a pair of men's boxers and a flight suit. That's what I had to wear. And I was like, fascinating. Like, I don't even know if they really thought about women being in SEER school.
Yeah.
And there was only like 2 of us there, and we both volunteered to go because no one was ever actually going to send us to this training. But it was invaluable training. So just thinking about some of these elements, the systemic elements that you are hearing and seeing about our experiences are very real and still very recent.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, keep that. Yeah, keep that. Okay, so speaking of that, we're going to segue to, and you were saying a little bit about what work each of these individuals did while they were in the service. So we're going to start with a clip from Lisa about her work, especially related to her deployment in Iraq.
Another thing I took away from the Marine Corps: plan for everything, anything. You never know what's going to happen. So we had some challenges with that. We didn't know how we were going to get our cold weather survival gear. Luckily, I was able to put some pressure on our supply folks. I was able to reach back into the rear back at Camp Pendleton and have some friends get some stuff on the next plane to us out there because we were really in a pickle. So I was able to get us a lot of equipment. I had learned in my time that to be an effective supply officer, I had to make magic happen. I called myself the magician. I mean, that was it. I had to figure out how do I get us what we need? And sometimes it was by bartering with others. When we first went into Camp Korean Village, we weren't prepared. People had, our public relations folks didn't even have paper. I mean, they weren't prepared to go into country for months. They didn't know they were going to go into country for months. So they didn't pack these things. So when I got into country, I looked at my boss, who was the XO of the MU, and I said, his name is Ricky Ross. I said, I need you to get me a helo. I need you to get me 6 of these collapsible containers, and I need you to send me to Al Asad for 2 days. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, I'm just telling you. Get me a helo, get me 6 containers, and let me go over to Al Asad, and I want to take a couple of my Marines with me. And he's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, find us stuff. That's literally it. So I went into Al Asad, and I found out where every supply unit was on base, and I just walked in. I said, hey, I'm with the MU. We don't have anything. What do you have that's excess in your department that I could take back home with me? And I walked away with 6 collapsible containers full of stuff to help my unit because, I mean, that's the kind of the thing with the Marine Corps is everybody will help each other. You know, we're all in it together, and we knew that. And they understood what it was like when you never know what to expect next. I mean, that's kind of like the Marine Corps life, right? You never know.
So maybe set that up a little bit, Lisa. Yeah, how did you end up in that situation?
Sure. Okay. And I got another part of that story that will make you both laugh.
Sure.
So I was with the 15th MU, and we deployed in 2006 to. So the way the Marine Expeditionary works is we have them on both coasts, the East Coast and the West Coast. So they go out of North Carolina or they go out of Camp Pendleton. And their goal is to sort of be available in that half of the hemisphere to respond to anything. Because the Marine Corps has 19 different missions that we respond to. You know, if you hear about us going to go into a country because there was a tsunami that wiped out a bunch of people and the Marines came in to help rescue them with humanitarian efforts, pirates off Somali coast, going in and rescuing people and doing those missions. So the Marine Expeditionary Unit is out there floating around on these parts of the world, and we go out for 6 months at a time, and we just literally we go from Camp Pendleton to Hawaii to Singapore and then over to Kuwait and then kind of back. And in it varies. We go to different countries based on different exercises, different things that we're trying to support. That's the West Coast MU. The East Coast MU goes out towards the European side of things and goes back. So we were on what was supposed to be a 6-month mission. All right. Now, we were part of the Iraqi surge in 2006. So we were actually going through the Straits of Hormuz on the Marine Corps birthday, which is coming up. Hurrah. And yeah, we were celebrating on the deck. They were doing the birthday celebration on the deck of this big giant ship going through the Straits of Hormuz. If you're familiar with this is where missiles go at us all the time. Every time we go through there, outside of Iran. And so we're headed into Kuwait for our next stop, and we get the orders that we need to be part of the surge, and we're going actually into Iraq. And they extended us by 180 days, or not 180 days, I'm sorry. They ended up extending us by an extra 3 months. So our 6-month tour ended up being a 9-month tour. So when I say we weren't prepared to go into Iraq, we were literally just thinking we were on this boat, right? On a nice little boat tour out and back. And so going into country was not anybody's plan. Now, we knew it could happen, but we really and truly had not prepared for it. And the ships are so small that we can't pack them with everything we potentially need either. What's interesting about this particular scenario is that we went into country, we went into Kuwait around November, and then actually ended up in country the week after Thanksgiving. I don't know if y'all know this, it snows in Iraq. All right, it gets cold. You know what we didn't have? Winter gear. So as I'm talking about going and borrowing, and stealing, I was also on the phone with TQ, Al Taqadum, which is where our main supply hub was in country, and going, I need every single cold weather item you have shipped out here as soon as possible. We don't have long sleeve layers, nothing. Because we were not planning to go into country, especially a country with snow, because we were expecting to be home by the time it starts snowing. Like, that was not part of the plan. So it was an interesting challenge. And going back to my little story about flying to Al-Assad, so this was shortly after we arrived, I was like, we have nothing. And when I say we have nothing, we are in, so we were on the outskirts, the western outskirts of Iraq, just off the border to Jordan. And in fact, in our next deployment, I was actually across the border in Jordan. And so we were in this little tiny village that the village itself was just cement walls of a building. There wasn't indoor plumbing. I mean, we were happy to have electricity. But it was just a cement wall, not even a painted cement wall. We actually painted them. Like cement floors, like just very basic cement buildings is what we had access to. And so when I say like we didn't have anything, we're talking like toilet paper, pens, like we didn't have a lot of these resources that we needed to be able to exist. In fact, I had to have my parents mail me shampoo and conditioner and tampons and all that stuff because where were you going to get this? Like, there's nowhere to get this stuff. So when I went to Al-Assad, I did take all my female Marines with me. Yes, because I walked those female Marines into every single building and we walked easily in because they're not used to seeing us and they loved seeing us. So that's one time where I used our strength to our advantage.
Hidy, do you want to tell us a little bit more? You told us a little bit about your job, but tell us a little bit more about the work you did in the Marines.
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I was an admin Marine. Absolutely loved it. I love paperwork, and I know, again, it's weird to say, but I really do. And so part of that, the part that I enjoyed about my job is most of the Marines that I gave their DD-214 to, they were either so joyful that I got like high fives and screams and like, like this joy, because again, they're excited to go home. They're done with their 4 years of service. They've gotten out honorably. They get all of the benefits that they deserve after deploying or not deploying, but serving and choosing to serve during a time of war. Because anybody that I helped get out, they chose to be there post 9/11. They chose to volunteer. So it was, I loved it. And then part of also that job is I got really blessed. I got transitioned. So sometimes you get orders. So you may belong to a primary unit. So like, let's say you belong here at JCCC, but then hypothetically, if you're like doing the nursing program, you have to go do clinicals at a different site. Similar in the Marine Corps. You can get TAD orders. So you can go to another unit and help them at that time. So I got TAD'd, loved it, as a CLR 15. And from there, it was incredible. I got the most honoring and humbling experience. They asked me to be in charge of the barracks for when not just men, when Marines came back after deployment. And so these Marines have this look on their face of just thankfulness to be home, to be standing on a parade deck, to be back in the United States, and so humbled that they're about to see their loved ones. So I got to be there on the parade deck, and they would say hi to their families and everything. And then those that couldn't just go home because their family isn't in California, because I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, I would make sure they had a warm bed, that they had clothes to change into, the water was running, the barracks was clean for them, they had privacy, and I even sometimes put mints on the pillow. Yeah, I did that. I did. Because for me, it was an honor and a joy to support these Marines that they've been overseas. They have gone without for a very long time. Yeah. And so it was a humbling way that I didn't get to deploy. They didn't let me. I asked. But at least I got to do this and serve in a different way that truly was remarkable, to just see all of the faces of the families, the banners, the screaming, the tears, the parents seeing their kids for the first time because they weren't there for the birth of their child. Moments that I will always remember and that are ingrained into my heart. And especially as a mom now, that I'm like, oh, you didn't see your firstborn? You didn't see your kid's first step? So it was truly an honor. Right. After that, I still admin Marine. I got out of active duty, got my duty 214. Oh, and by the way, one of the most important parts of the Marine Corps, I met my husband there. I do not want to skip over that. I married a Marine. Yeah. Thank God. He's actually in the audience, and he works for JCCCA as well, so I'm going to call him out. Hidy Lopez, second row, with the beautiful hair, handsome demeanor. So what was really nice, though, we had agreed we wanted to get out, not because it wasn't more for the Marine Corps, but I knew I wanted to do nursing. And for those that don't know, the Marine Corps falls under the Department of the Navy, so you can't necessarily serve in the medical field through the Marine Corps. And I knew, I was like, I really want to be a nurse, and I want to be a peds nurse. There's definitely no peds in any military branch. So we boldly both got out together, and we got out, got our degrees. I got my degree in health science with a minor in adolescent studies. But during that time, my husband was still in, and he is still in to this day. He's a gunny, and he's still in the Marine Corps. And my husband's like, just give it a try. Just, you might like it, being back in uniform and hanging out with Marines. I was like, I don't know. Well, I believed him because he was also a Marine Corps recruiter, so he was very convincing. So I believed him, and I said, okay. So I signed up for the unit, and I was honored. Again, because of him encouraging me to sign up and go into the reserves, I was that first female Marine for that unit. And it was an honor, and it was incredible to also break stereotypes and help them realize how to respect a Marine, not a female Marine, not a woman, but a Marine, and that I was their equal. And that to them was a new concept, because they had been in this bubble where there was no females, none. So it was even incredible to teach them, because they didn't know about Marine Corps hair regulations, and we talk about it a lot. They're very, very strict. It's not this, by the way. This is way too pretty, and there's also flyaways. Anyways, it's no. This is a mess. But yes. There's a lot of stories here when it comes to hair. But the point is, I remember after I got there, a few months later, another female Marine arrived. And I was like, we're growing. She arrived, and we had done a uniform inspection because it was during the time of December. And if you guys have seen it before, we do, Marines, you'll see Toys for Tots. You'll see them in their beautiful blues. We look amazing. And we're out collecting toys. Well, her hair was out of regs, but no male Marine knew. And I realized, I was like, oh, you guys all know the Marine Corps grooming standards for males, but you don't know the female Marine Corps standards? And then she was asking for help to make sure that everything was aligned, because again, everything is precision, it's measured. And the male Marine's like, I don't know where I put your ribbons. Like, he did not know what to do. He's like, do they go above your breast or to the side, or is it closer to the button? She's like, you don't know I know your regulations and you don't know mine? And he's like, no. So again, it was an opportunity to not shame, but to teach and to let them realize, hey, we're part of this gun club too. We are your equals. But because we have to learn stuff about you, we want to make sure you know our regulations as well. So.
Yeah, thank you. You want to pass to Sandra? Sandra, you want to tell us a little bit about your work in the Marine Corps?
Oh, wow. Okay. One, it's been a year or two.
Yeah.
So I was a logistician from the beginning of my Marine Corps career. While I was at the basic school, I decided to go into logistics, because what I found fascinating about it was, although the rest of the Marine Corps would do exercises and play at doing what they were going to do, as a logistician, you never played at it. You did it. So if a unit was going to this place to conduct an exercise, I had to actually get them there with the stuff that they needed to do the things that they wanted to do. And then they could do their little exercise, and then I had to get them back, to their originating place. And even in the basic school, they assigned me those jobs. And I remember that at the basic school, with one of the war things that we did, was it
to the field?
Yeah.
Exercise and the weeks.
We ended up with a lot of casualties because it was in the winter, and we had a lot of frozen toes and fun stuff like that. And I had to actually do evacuations and so forth, which was, I wasn't practicing these evacuations, I was doing them. And I loved the fact that I wasn't going to be pretending or practicing doing things in logistics, that I would actually be doing it no matter what the Marine Corps was doing, what my unit was doing. So that's why I went into logistics. Throughout my career, I never did the same thing twice, but I never worked outside of my specialty area. As Ty said at the beginning, I did everything from embarkation, which was planning and loading ships and trains and aircraft, and sometimes aircraft on aircraft, which was entertaining. I did things, I built and ran a tent city for over 800 people in Korea. I wrote doctrine for the United States Marine Corps. Landing Support Operations, that was my book. It's probably been updated quite a few times since then.
Less than you would expect.
That's possible. I did so many fascinating things. I loved my time in the Marine Corps. I never got bored with it because everything I did, it was always changing no matter where I went. Maintenance management was the first thing I did. I went to a maintenance battalion in North Carolina, and I was the first woman officer that they had ever seen. There were a few enlisted Marines, women Marines there, but I was the first woman officer that they had ever seen, and they didn't know what to do with me. They couldn't figure out what to do, and they finally assigned me as the executive officer of one of the companies, maintenance company, and we did everything in that company from repairing little 3 kW generator engines all the way up to tank engines. We did the repair of what we call 782 gear, which is our personal gear that we wore, so like the flak jackets, the web belts, the canteen containers, or not the containers, but the holders, all that sort of stuff. We did all that sort of repairs. We had sewing machines that could sew through 3/4 inch plywood, that could repair the tentage and so forth. I remember going down and talking to, the people on the floor that were working on the different things, and I was talking to one of the tank mechanics, and of course he started trying to pull the wool over my eyes, and I had enough general engineering from my time at the Naval Academy that I called him on it, and he decided that maybe he ought to come clean and talk to me straight. So that was pretty good. I had times where I had Marines who decided that they were going to test me to see if I was worthy of them, calling me a Marine. And they would try to test me on different things. And luckily, I was able to come through and get their respect. And that they were happy to call me a Marine and work with me from then on. It was a lot of training the men on how to deal with the women in the Marine Corps. Like I said, they didn't stop calling us women Marines until 2006. I've been to Okinawa, Japan. I spent there for 3 years. I went to Korea 18 times. I've been all over the place, East Coast, West Coast. I also wanted to deploy over and over and over, and I was not allowed to. When the first Persian Gulf War came around in 1990, and we deployed to the Persian Gulf, our base commander said that no women would be allowed to deploy from the base. And so I was not allowed to go anywhere. My husband went, but I had to stay behind. He was the same sort of thing with the supplies. He called me and would say, okay, we're not getting this, this, and this. I need you to get these on order for me and get them shipped over there. And so I was doing supplies for his deployed unit, even though I was not assigned that. But we had a lot of units that went out from where I was at. I was at 29 Palms, California at this time, and we are a desert training environment. So all of the units there were the ones that were originally shipped out to the first Persian Gulf War because of their desert training. And then we were supposed to have a lot of follow-on units come through to do their training before being assigned out there as well. I worked in the facilities management there, so I was the one who was responsible for making sure that they had the facilities that they needed to accomplish their training before they were being assigned out to the first Persian Gulf War, out to Kuwait and Iraq and all that fun stuff. I loved my time in the Marine Corps, and when I left active duty, I went into the reserves so that I was able to retire from the Marine Corps.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandra. All right, we're going to do 2 clips now from Hidy's interview, and they relate to sort of the meaning of military service for her and life after, and then also what it means to be not recognized as a veteran.
You remember I told you at the beginning, I said, after graduating boot camp, like working through that injury in that hip, that I was like, I can do anything. If I can make it through boot camp and I can make it through the crucible, I can do anything. That confidence has pushed me through everything, through my first bachelor's degree, through the Peace Corps, through getting my nursing degree accelerated, even through, I hope this makes you laugh, I'm a mom of 2, even through labor. I was like, I did boot camp. I can give birth to 2 kids. Like, I can do this. And it's been the foundation of who I am for so many years. That even to this day, when I come across something, it's like, man, this is hard. It's like, but is it boot camp hard? Like, is it really boot camp hard? And I'm like, no. And now I even say, like, is it as hard as giving birth? And I'm like, no. And so I can be able to use those as like my cornerstones of like, it's not that hard. Like, you can do this. Even to this day, my husband and I, we can be out at Target, we can be, shopping, just somewhere out getting groceries. And my husband, because he has USMC Marine Corps tattoo, other Marines will immediately be like, oh, Semper Fi, like, hey, Marine Corps veteran, and like, say hi and everything. And I get overlooked. No one ever thinks that I'm a veteran, let alone a Marine Corps veteran. So normally I get overlooked, but my husband, because he's amazing, we've been together 13 years, he says, my wife served also. And so he always brings me into the conversation. But again, there's nothing that like really distinguished. So I normally try to wear my necklace because in your Marine, if we have good attention to detail, we will notice an eagle, globe, and anchor. We've got good eyes. But my husband has been pushing. He's like, come on, get a Marine Corps tattoo, And it's getting more and more tempting just because he's right. It does suck to be, no one notices that I'm the veteran, and I don't wear hats, so I'm not going to wear like the cool Marine Corps hat veterans. So it's getting tempting, but I don't know. I don't like needles. I know I'm a nurse, but I don't like needles.
Okay, so Hidy, share a little bit more about that with us.
Oh my goodness. So yes, it still happens today. Oh, sorry about the reverb. Yeah. It is still tempting. I still have the design of the beautiful Marine Corps emblem tattoo that I might get. And she's saying do it because she has one. It is tempting, but what it has also taught me is that it's an opportunity to speak up for myself. That when I do encounter and I do see another veteran, I always try to make it a priority. And I even have my kids learn this too, that I say, hey, that's a veteran. Come here, Grace, she's 4. I'm like, we need to say thank you for your service. And she, of course, doesn't understand, but she's like, okay, Mommy. She's like, thank you for your service. And they think, and then I get bold, because before I wouldn't before, and I would say, I actually served too. But it took me a while to find my own voice getting out of the Marine Corps. It took me a while to realize I can say I'm a veteran. I can. But it took me a while because I'm like, yeah, but do I look at post post kiddos, I gained 80 pounds with both my kids. And it beat me down that I was like, man, I'm not even close to Marine Corps standards. Like it's a brainwash thing that you're like, well, I'm not a Marine because I'm not as lean, I'm not as mean. So can I really say it? What if somebody looks at me and is like, are you sure you served? And it's like, I just had 2 babies. But in the end, it has taught me to speak up, to say, and also to ask. Something that I learned, I work at Children's Mercy. We have a curiosity mindset, and it's something that I implement into my daily life, that when I see another veteran and they're with a spouse, I now no longer assume that it was only the male that served. I'm like, oh, wonderful, thank you for serving. And I said, and thank you for your support. Did you by chance serve as well? And I ask. If they say no, that's okay. But I've gotten more yeses than I've gotten no's. And just because we don't have a tattoo, because I don't like needles, doesn't mean we don't also want to be seen and heard.
Love that. All right, we're going to start the question portion. So Kenna's going to circle around and come get one of these mics. But while she's coming to get the mic, Sandra, do you want to tell us, and here, pass that down. Sandra, do you want to tell us a little bit about why you brought your sword and what was important about that?
Well, the Marine Corps sword for officers is the Mameluke sword. And you saw us at the very beginning, Lisa and I had our swords out. A little bit of history about the Mameluke sword. In 1805, Lieutenant O'Brien and his Marines marched across over 600 miles of North African desert to the shores of Tripoli, where they rid them of pirates, and they also rescued the kidnapped crew of the USS Pennsylvania. So one of the North African chieftains presented O'Brien that sword, the Mameluke sword, in 1805. By 1825, all Marine Corps officers were carrying the sword in honor of what he accomplished, and also in honor of the first United States Marine Corps operations on foreign soil. So that's why we have the Mameluke sword.
Love it. Awesome. Kenna, do you have some audience questions? Yeah. Just speak loud, Darian. I'll repeat it. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you all three of you for your service in keeping this country free. So my main question kind of is like, what was it like being treated as like women, knowing you were Marines, but for, like Sandra said, being called women Marines? Like, how did that affect you at the start of your Marine career?
Yeah. So his question is, how did being called women Marines, in addition to the treatment you received, impact you in your service?
I'm just going to say one simple thing that I learned when I was at OCS from Platoon Sergeant Gunnery Sergeant Rowe that never left me. Women have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. And that lived with me forever and to this day.
Sandra or Heidi, do you have something you want to add?
That was the stigma,
Sandra, take the mic.
because we weren't considered Marines, that we had to constantly prove ourselves over and over and over. It didn't make any difference what we had accomplished yesterday. We had to do better or more the next day in order to continue to be considered viable and useful within that unit. So it was a constant thing. We had to prove ourselves over and over.
Yeah, and I think it even affects a lot of the female Marines' personal lives. What I mean by that is, again, I met my husband, and I knew I wanted to marry him the moment I met him. Poor guy, I friend-zoned him, though, but still knew I wanted to marry him. Tough cookie. But I didn't want to get married because I didn't want people to think I was getting married to then get benefits and then end up pregnant to avoid a deployment.
Yeah.
But none of that was true. I just wanted to marry him because he's my best friend. That's it. But we decided, hey, we'll just wait until we're out, because we were so close to getting out. And we're like, we'll just wait till we get out. But it would have been an honor to wear on my camis his last name. I would have been honored to be Corporal Lopez, not my maiden name, but my new married name. But I didn't want someone to look at me that, oh, she's probably pregnant or she's gonna get pregnant. And that sucked because I just wanted to be with my best friend. But then if a male Marine got married, didn't even matter. They're like, oh, okay, all right, congratulations. Let's write it down and update your MOL, okay, and you're done. And they wouldn't think twice. It didn't prevent them from deploying. So it's a good question.
Yeah. Other
Any other questions? Stand up. We're having equipment malfunction. Please do.
I want to throw one thing that we found out that was in common
Yeah.
that I think is really interesting. My husband's right here in the front row, Brian Young. I didn't take his name because I was Captain Parrott, Dr. Parrott, and I wanted to keep that because I earned those in that name. But I respect the hell out of wanting to take your husband's. And he was a Marine, and I met him while he was in. But I had a different dream for what my Marine Corps career was going to look like, and so we went different directions until after we both ended up getting out and then making that decision later on. And we know Sandra also.
I also married Maureen.
Married a Marine, yes. So we have that. We all talked about how we found that very much in common because it takes a lot of strength to be in the Marine Corps as a female. And I brought some of my shirts over here, and you can see how objectified we were. That T-shirt with Lady Aces on it is from 2008, so don't think it was that long ago.
I actually met my husband at the United States Naval Academy, and he was a year ahead of me, but he was going into the Marine Corps. And a lot of people say, oh, you just went into the Marine Corps because Pat did too. No, I went into the Marine Corps because what I saw of the Marines and what I saw of the Navy, I was so much more impressed with the pride that the Marine Corps had in themselves and what they did. And I didn't see that same thing with the Navy, and so that's why I chose the Marine Corps. Also, to let you know, the original reason why I went into the military was because I was so angry at the time with how we were treating our Vietnam vets. So that gives you an indicator of how old I am. I'll be 66 next month. I went into the United States Marine Corps in 1981. I went to the United States Naval Academy in 1977. So it's been a year or two. But I was angry with the way we were treating our Vietnam vets, and I wanted to support them. And I thought the best way to show my support was by going into the military. I didn't realize it was going to be so hard being a woman in the military.
All right, we've reached the end of our time. So yeah, if you have, do you have a question? Yeah. Yeah, say what years you were in the service again.
Yes, I got in 2008, and then I got out of active duty 2012, and then I did the reserves. I say I dabbled in it for less than a year, but so 08 to 12.
Yeah.
99 to 2009.
1977, I think I retired 2015.
So then my second question is, so since 2008 or 2009, do you think things have changed from then to now for women?
So first of all, I do want to clarify, we love the Marine Corps. You will not find Marines, and especially for Marines, we say we are the prouder and the fewer because there's so few of us. So I will say they have made incredible strides. What I mean by that is when I got out, before women could not go in the infantry all the way up until when I was still in. And I had gotten out, and about a year or two later, the first female Marine joined the infantry to an infantry unit. And I was like, oh my gosh, it happened. Like, I even still have the Marine Corps Times that came out with the article, and I still have that because I was just like, oh my gosh, it happened. So I do want to encourage you, yes, there are certain MOSs that have opened and have been able to be opportunists to, again, to everyone. But one thing that unfortunately is still something that could be improved on and I will at least speak for myself, is that unfortunately while I was in, I experienced, it's called an MST. It's called a military sexual trauma. And I won't go into detail because, again, I do understand that may trigger some of the folk in the audience today. And I am sorry for anyone that does trigger. But what I mean by that is, unfortunately, it's not a space where women can feel that they can be just women. Like I said in boot camp, they told me you can either be the B word or you can be the slut. And I was neither. I was the Christian girl that wanted to serve her country and just wanted to be a light in a dark place and be good at what I did. That's all I wanted to do. And to the glory of God, I did do that. I still remember my junior Marines would come in and they were cussing, and I would walk in and they're like, Corporal Aguilar's here, stop cussing, stop cussing. And I'm like, thank you. I would thank them because they didn't have to stop cussing, but they did out of respect. So, but till this day, I still think that we aren't sure. Are we supposed to be the B word? Are we supposed to be the one that's, that sleeps around? And it's like, it's neither. And so it's still finding that identity that we are Marines, but we're still individuals in the sense of we're still women. So it's a good question. Again, opportunity has opened. There's things that I never thought were going to happen. Like something to me that's incredible, and I'll be quick, I know we got time. There was a female gunnery sergeant. She was in the Marine Corps Times, and she unfortunately was kicked out of the Marine Corps. And to get gunny, that's a pretty high rank. And she was kicked out because she had finally chosen to start a family and got pregnant, and she wanted to breastfeed her kiddo. I breastfed both of my kiddos. It is an honor and not something every woman can do. But in order to breastfeed, you burn a lot of calories. Well, you have to consume a lot of calories. But the Marine Corps expects you to be back in uniform and up and running within 3 months. 3 months. I have to be up and ready to run. Well, she chose 3 miles. Yeah, running 3 miles, 3 months. That was impossible. She chose to stop breastfeeding and instead to stay with the Marine Corps standards to continue her Marine Corps career. But guess what? She started too late. So by the time it was time to weigh in, she was off by 1 pound. And she got kicked out of the Marine Corps for 1 pound. How can you tell me that somebody that served for over 10 years, to get gunny, you have to be in for more than 10 years, to get kicked out because you didn't make weight and you just had a baby? So again, there's still room for improvement. And that's just not military-wide. That is organizational-wide. And that goes for men too. There's so many men that they want to stay home and help with the kid, but there's no parental leave for men. So again, there's room for improvement, and we've made so many steps and strides, and I'm proud of the Marine Corps and who it continues to evolve to be. But we got to do better. We got to do better for female Marines. We've got to do better for our Marine Corps recruiters, that they're working 12, 20-hour days. We've got to do better for drill instructors that don't see their families because they're there 24 hours. We can do better. So, but great question, but that's all branches.
Sandra or Lisa, anything to add to that? No?
I think she got it good.
Okay.
Tell us about the scholarship.
Yeah.
For those that are interested, I am also a member of the Women Marines Association, and we offer a scholarship annually. And I can tell you that not all the money is used up. So if you're interested, if you are directly related to a Marine, male or female, it doesn't have to be a female Marine, you can take a look, just Google Women Marines Association Scholarship. And you can look up the qualifications for that and what is required. You do have to be sponsored by a Women Marine Association member. I am a member. You can contact Kenna back there in the back, and she can hook you up with getting in touch with me, and I can sponsor you if you want to apply for those scholarships.
That's awesome. And if you're any of my students, you can contact me and I can get you to Kenna. All right, well, thank you so much for coming. Feel free to come up and ask your question directly. If anyone else has other questions, feel free to come up directly and talk to folks. We've got some snacks and drinks left over. Feel free to take them, and thank you for coming.